Broadstairs is a coastal town in Kent. If you're new here or haven't been up to date with my videos, I'm exploring Kent. Kent is known to be the Garden of England. I started off with the coastal towns, and in this video, I would talk about Broadstairs. To be honest though, my expectations were quite low for Broadstairs. I just don't hear people talk about it. Well, at least the people I know. When it comes to coastal towns in Kent, I mainly hear about Margate, so I thought maybe the other towns are worse than Margate, but Broadstairs really surprised me. I arrived just before sunset from the neighbouring town of Ramsgate. Broadstairs, Ramsgate and Margate, these three towns makes up the Isle of Thanet. I spoke more about why Thanet is called the Isle of Thanet in my Ramsgate video, so if you want to know more, you can check out my Ramsgate video. It didn't take long once I came out of the taxi to see the views. I honestly couldn't believe I lived just an hour and a half away on a train from this for 18 years, and this was my first time here. The town looks very posh. Even the parks or sitting public areas look very well maintained. Now, about Broadstairs. Before the 18th century, it was a small village of a few fishermen here and there. In the mid of the 18th century, gentlemen and gentle farmers started moving to Broadstairs. This attracted noblemen to visit the town. During this time period, London wasn't so pleasant. The population was growing day by day. There wasn't a sewer system yet. The River Thames was used as the sewer, so the air quality was bad and diseases would spread so easily. So people that could afford to move out of London and buy property elsewhere or buy holiday homes, they did so in towns like Broadstairs. By 1850, the professional classes moved to Broadstairs and steady town expansion took place. As the town grew, artists, writers, lawyers, basically more people with money moved in, causing more accommodation for rent to be built, and the Broadstairs seaside holiday industry started. Broadstairs is very diverse with its beaches. Some are better for certain things like surfing. It actually has 7 bays and beaches. They all have different charms. I believe this one is the Viking Bay. I find this bay really charming. There's quite a few nice things around here and it's very close to the high street, so there are a few restaurants, bars and convenience shops. A car park is also available in this bay. I didn't manage to get to all of the bays, but the other ones are Botany Bay, Joss Bay, Kingsgate Bay, Stone Bay, Louisa Bay, and Dumpton Gap. So Botany Bay, this one is close to the next town of Margate, and Joss Bay, apparently this one is really good for surfing and has really clear crystal waters. Whichever beach or bay you decide to visit, check the tide times because some of the beaches tend to disappear when the tide is high. I believe this is Stone Bay. It's very close to Viking Bay and the High Street. Since Broadstairs is on the Isle of Thanet, one of the characteristics of the Isle of Thanet is the white chalk cliffs. I always say this about all of the beaches. If you do plan to visit these places, please do not leave rubbish everywhere. If you leave any plastic materials, they can get into the water. Like here, the beach has almost disappeared because the tide is so high. So any rubbish or plastics that might have been left behind is probably washed away and is in the sea. And plastic in the sea, we all know the consequences, so please be responsible. You can rent some of these chalets or beach huts per day or week or whatever you prefer. It looks quiet, but it does get busy in the afternoon. My plan was to just pass by and see what Broadstairs looks like, but I loved it so much that I actually decided to spend the night. So I booked this hotel called The Crown. They only had a family room available for £120, which is affordable compared to London. So the room has 2 single beds and a double bed. I did a walk-in and the receptionist was really nice. Before I booked the room, she asked me if I've seen pictures of the room. I said no. She said, let's go have a look. Then you can decide if you want to book it or not. The high street looks like a typical English village, but the good type. It pretty much had everything I needed. And it's very close to the beach. You can see some of the sea even from the high street. My only wish is that Broadstairs keeps the theme it has now and that it doesn't start with the glass modern buildings. They just look so awkward when one is sticking out in the middle of a town. In my humble opinion, new cities should be created for those kind of buildings. If you're wondering, besides the beach, what else does Broadstairs offer? Well, there are some tours you can go on, like the St. Peter's Village Historical Tour. A group of volunteers offer free award-winning guided walks. The tours are arranged by a team of over 100 volunteers. Broadstairs also has a lot of festivals. They have the food festivals, Folk Week, Charles Dickens Festival. I'll explain a bit more later on in this video on why there is a Charles Dickens Festival in Broadstairs. You can do some surfing lessons at the Kent Surfing School. It also has hiking opportunities. You can hike to Ramsgate or Margate. This will allow you to explore the coast in this region. It also has a museum, one of them being the Charles Dickens Museum, so there is something for everyone. I would say the restaurants in Broadstairs are also worth fully exploring. I was happy to see variety in the cuisines available. This is another thing that made me really like Broadstairs. Often when I go on holiday, let's say France or Italy, and if I'm not in the capital city, in most cases the restaurants serve similar food and you don't get much choice besides the regional options. Which is fine, but it does get boring after a couple of days. So if bubble tea is your thing, they got a whole cafe in Broadstairs. And this one was actually pretty good. It's also just a few minutes away from the beach. Another cafe I really liked was the Ford's Cafe. This one is very eccentric. It has a small sitting area underground, but trust me, it was worth it. So in this cafe, they actually do Korean breakfast or breakfast inspired by Korean food. If you like exploring food, then I recommend this cafe as well. I don't know exactly what I ordered. It was in Korean, but I'm sure every menu item here is decent. The menu is quite short, but that's always a good thing to me because that means they're specialized in just a few items instead of just giving you a bunch of stuff that's not good. This cafe is also not very far from the beach. It usually gets fully booked because the food is that good. Remember earlier in the video when I spoke about how historically Broadstairs attracted professionals? Well, Charles Dickens used to visit Broadstairs for holidays, and apparently he visited for approximately 22 summers. On the 5th of October 1849, Charles Dickens was staying at the Albion Hotel while writing early chapters of David Copperfield. In a letter to John Leach about the delights of this thanet resort, he wrote, "There has been a trifle of rain here, a spot or two. But today is one of the most wonderful and charming days I ever saw. The air so brisk and bracing as it is nowhere but at Broadstairs. The channel so busy and alive with shipping as it is nowhere but off Broadstairs. The hotel is so cozy and like a private house, as it is nowhere but in Broadstairs. Everything as nothing is out of Broadstairs. Vive la Broadstairs. I mean, same to be honest. One thing about the seaside towns in Kent is that the parks are also decent. And as someone who loves nature, trees, and all that stuff, this makes me feel so happy. So, if you visit Broadstairs and want a change of scenery from the beach, parks are also available. If you want to know more about the events in Broadstairs, like the festivals and the dates, you can also find out more on the Broadstairs Council website or the Thanet website. Please also double check on the websites to see if dogs are allowed for some of the beaches in Broadstairs if you do plan to visit. I saw somewhere that dogs are only allowed at certain times but not at all times. At the train station, they have this book exchange shelf, so you can leave a book and take one in exchange. The fact that they can leave the books in the open like that, you can tell this town has a low crime rate. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.